Well, welcome back, folks. You are now watching Mark.
Oh, Marc?
And Elmer's
PSI.
Piano Scene
Investigations.
Yeah.
So, Elmer and I both have little bitchy things that have happened.
God.
Mine is struggling with YouTube and stuff like that. By the time you get this stuff will be resolved, but I did manage to finally get the third show up on YouTube, but it will not go onto our Marc and Elmer's PSI page. And I don't know, it goes to my master page, and somehow there's no way to even administrate the Marc and Elmer's page. So I did, however, as I was looking at things, figuring maybe what we might try to load up and what we should just, forget it. But there's like 5 good shows from August. And they're also dated so that they're actually chronologically in order. And then we started on the 18th, I think, of January or something like that, maybe the 11th.
Yeah, that was fun.
To do, we got 3 shows up with that. That's like 8 shows. That's a lot of editing time, a lot of upload time. So we're going to record this one, and then, of course, all this will be in the past tense by the time you see it.
Yeah.
But we're probably going to take a break until we can work out this YouTube issue, and then I'm just going to go start working and do some editing, get the things loaded up one after the next, and get them out. But
yeah, I know the feeling.
why didn't you study computer science?
I didn't. I was too busy trying to be like you.
Okay.
I'd have to live 2 lifetimes.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so we're going to do a little bit of ranting here today.
Okay, he's got to
I just got back from work, in case you're wondering about the shirt and tie.
Carefully.
What?
Go ahead.
Oh,
Don't drop a lot of names.
I won't drop too many names. But what a pain in the butt, though.
Yeah. So we got a project out there.
Okay, I play the piano at a store. I played the piano.
Very reputable institution.
Yeah. And anyways, so I've been there almost 20 years, folks. 20 years. And you figured in that time everything would be running smoothly, but something's bound to break, right? So, anyways, I found out today that the speaker system in this establishment has gone haywire. And so what happened was the volume turned up like 10 times, and if you play too loudly on the piano, the salespeople won't be able to hear their customers, in conversation.
I didn't notice you're amplified.
Yeah, we are amplified.
I didn't know that.
And so, folks, I just spent 4 hours at the piano today playing at a whisper level.
Oh, how'd you do that? It's a big Kanabi in and of itself.
It's a 6-footer, grand. And so I'm sitting there playing, rather, right on the surface, barely on the surface, and you could still hear it.
A volume knob somewhere.
Supposedly the audio people came over and visited the store 3 times already, and they said they couldn't fix it. And so the final resolution is to get the thing replaced. So right now they're just sort of window shopping to find out which one's the cheapest.
I'm surprised that they even need to amplify you in that space. You should be able to hear that piano all over the store.
Yeah, well, you're supposedly you're able to hear it outside as well, outside the doors.
Well, that's the amplification.
Yeah.
No, fine, but I mean, he plays right in the center of the store.
Yeah, by the
It's got a
escalators.
nice area by the escalators, and they have, it's a actually more than semi-open second floor. Actually, the whole. Does it overhang the whole perfume area, or is that totally free?
What do you mean?
The second floor.
The second floor is the second floor.
It really covers everything.
Yeah, it covers everything.
So the only aperture up to the second floor is through the escalator.
Escalators, and there's one or two elevators to take upstairs as well.
But the only open air is through the escalator area. So maybe I get that. To hear the piano upstairs, maybe, but you should be able to hear it downstairs. Come on,
they can't hear me downstairs anymore.
The tail of it faces the door that goes into the rest of the mall.
Yeah, I know.
You'd think a piano like that speaks enough in this door.
You'd think, yes, you'd think, but no. They got to put a whole speaker system in the thing, and now nobody can hear. Well, now the upstairs can hear me, but nobody downstairs can hear me because I'm playing so quiet.
Yeah.
So
That's too bad.
yeah, that's what it is. And if that's not enough, folks, I'm sure a lot of you pianists have had to deal with having to do accompaniments for solo and ensemble competition. I know they have it here in Ohio, but do they have solo and ensemble nationwide?
Oh, of course.
They do? Okay, so some of you guys and girls might probably have done this before, but I wish these kids would get a hold of you at least a month ahead of time. So I'm being contacted 2 days for the bloody competition on Saturday. It is Thursday, and they haven't gotten the music to me because they just contacted me half an hour ago. Now I can't do it. Why? Because I'm working on Saturday.
Yeah.
So
Playing tinkle piano?
and what?
You gonna play tinkle piano?
Yes, I'm going to play tinkle piano once again. So you're talking 8 hours on the piano this weekend, folks, where I won't be able to play above a whisper. For that, they should be paying me stinking double or triple for that.
Well, maybe have all the pretty ladies who want to play sit down on the bench next to you.
Oh, the pretty ladies?
Yeah, I think the pretty ladies going on.
Should I tell them that story?
Huh?
Should I tell them that story?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, for all you guys, for all you piano cats out there that like to play as lounge lizards or bars, here's something that you simply cannot make up. So a couple of weeks ago, I'm at my store playing the piano again, and I'm into my shift about second or third hour, and this young lady approaches me at the piano, and she's got this black dress on. She looked, she was pretty hot looking, okay?
Ooh.
So she's in high heels, and she's got this dark hair, and she's obviously, from the way she looks, she was definitely, of Hispanic nature. I'm sorry, I have to tell you, she reminded me of Salma Hayek. She looked good. Ooh. And so she's standing there, and she's like this, and smiling at me, and I just keep on playing. I'm like looking at her, and it's kind of getting hot in here, right? So I say, hi. And she's like, hello. And so I keep on playing, and I say, how are you? And she's like, I'm fine, thank you. And she's still standing there smiling while I'm playing, and she says, I'm single. And I about fell off my bench. And I look up at her, and says, I'm married. Okay, I show her my ring.
You hear that, Kathy?
Yeah. She knows the story already.
Yeah.
So then once again, she kind of looks a little confused. She says, I am single. I says, I am married. You understand? I have a wife. And so anyways, still confused. She pulls out her iPhone and starts fiddling with it. And she says, I am singer. So she missed it by one syllable. Not single, but a singer. Well, she might be single. I don't know.
Did you buy something she could sing to?
Well, I asked her. She asked me if I knew boleros. And I said, boleros? I said, depends if I know the song. And so she types up a list of songs that she knew. And she said, it was all in Spanish, so it was over my head. I didn't know what it was. I said, I'm sorry, I don't know any of those. And so she just sort of said, gracias, thank you, turned around and walked off.
Oh.
And that was it. So that was an interesting story. So what else am I going to rant about? Oh, yeah. I've been on one of my ventures again. Okay, as you all know me, Mark likes to compare me to Indiana Jones, which I basically almost went through this past Sunday. Went to another book sale at a library, local library, and I'm about to show you about the treasure I found. So, but it's never easy. This is like the third one I've been to over that area, and it doesn't get easy. I mean, the first time, it was like, you've seen those scenes in Indiana Jones where he's just standing there and all of a sudden 100 natives come rushing at him. And, well, that's what it looked like the first time. All right, my second time there, I almost got into a fight.
Oh. And he's a black belt.
That was many years ago. I'm a little bit out of practice. So, but anyways, so the second time, yeah, that was a close one. The third time, you figured everybody knows me by now, and yeah, they do. They do. So I'm meeting a lot of the same people who go to these things every time they have these book sales. And most of the people there are vendors, so they're like trying to buy books to supply their bookstores or whatever. And me, I'm just a musician. I'm a pianist. I play the piano. I teach piano. I perform. You name another profession that has dedicated their lives fully like we have. You're not going to find that many professions. And so I'm just dealing with one box of music. One box that had sheet music. And so I'm piling music off to the side of the table that I'm thinking consideration, right? And 3 times people came by and knocked my stuff over. And so 3 times I had to get on my hands and knees to pick up my stuff, put it back in a nice pile until a nice librarian came by and handed me a bag to put my stuff in. I guess he saw me, having to deal with that 3 times. But it was bad. But I made it out with my life. Okay?
And you got some stuff.
I did get some stuff.
Oh.
Some fairly interesting stuff.
So we always, I don't always, but sometimes we have show and tell. But Elmer's never invited me to his house. And I'm beginning to think he might be a hoarder, but he says he's not that bad. But he's constantly, as he calls it, digging into the archives or something.
No comment!
And he brings stuff over. It's always very interesting. And the other thing, too, is his house must be as big as a British palace, because all the stuff that he has and that he brings over, it's amazing. But he's never invited me over to him.
Oh. Kathy would kill me if I invited you over. She would kill me.
Why?
Why? Because she's...
You're not allowed to have friends?
I'm allowed to
That's
have
like,
friends.
what was that, The Burbs with Tom Hanks? 2 guys come up
Oh.
and come on, Carol, let him come out and play.
No, it's just that Kathy...
Grown guys.
Kathy has to prepare herself as well as the house. Okay? She's just that type of person.
I get it. I get
so, but anyways, yeah.
I get it.
And I can't blame her.
I'm just teasing you.
Yeah, I hope you are. But one day, okay, one day we will.
Yeah.
One day we will.
Because he's got a VCR. And he's got really cool videotapes. I don't have a VCR, so we can never play anything like that over here.
Yeah, because really, some of the stuff I have, they've never been transferred to DVD. And I've tried looking on YouTube and everything else, and I can't find
And unfortunately, I apparently deleted last week's show, but he brought in Jane Seymour movie, where she was
that was the one that
composer. Ooh, you should have seen the picture on the back.
It's not that kind of movie.
That's kind of juicy.
It is not that kind of movie. Oh, come on, Mark. I hate when you do this. It's not that kind of
I
movie.
like to put a lot of extra butter on the popcorn when we watch movies like that.
It's not that kind of a movie. It's not that kind of a movie.
No, I'm teasing.
Yeah.
I'm just that kind of mood today.
Okay. Well, you want me to
Yeah.
start pulling stuff
Yeah.
up? Okay, well,
Do we have otherwise we have a theme for today?
a theme for today?
Do we have a theme?
Uh,
I thought you wrote me about something that was an interesting. I said it could be a good topic.
oh,
What's
that
that
one.
about?
That was about. Okay. Well, there seems to be a possible trend going on.
Oh,
in
yeah,
music departments. Yeah, in colleges and universities. There's a possible trend.
This will be a really good one when we finally get these shows up on YouTube, and you can watch them and then start to comment on our Facebook page. That's our place to
Yes.
exist as a communicating community.
Yes.
But we'll do show and tell first, and then we're going to raise this topic. We're not going to finish saying what it is.
Okay. Later.
We're going to hold your attention. It's very exciting.
Okay. The first thing I want to bring out. Okay. Well, I might be. Oh God, I'm trying to decide if I want to. All right, I'll do this. This is like quite possibly the best part of the whole thing.
Oh.
Okay. Now, these are Chopin etudes.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, we have Paderewski editions or text editions, but I now have the proud owner of the Friedheim edition.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I have those.
You do?
In an old Shermer edition, yeah.
Just like this one?
Arthur Friedheim, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm proud to
They're
say.
actually very interesting and very, they make a lot of sense pianistically.
Really?
When I first began to study some of the preludes or the etudes with Professor Wen,
Yeah.
the Friedheim edition is the one I used.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Very good fingerings, a lot of interesting ideas.
wow. There's even. Oh,
Nice
well,
one.
look at this. Does yours
That-
have this?
I don't know about that.
Here he comments on all the etudes, all 27.
Wow.
He's got something to say about all of them here. It says notes. Let me see. Well, let me make sure it's actually him that wrote these. Let me see here. I'm looking.
Of course you would. Of course you would.
The etudes. Boy, that's.
You guys took responsibility for this.
Oh. It says James Honecker.
Oh, it's James Honecker. Okay.
Okay, it says James Honecker. Boy, it would have been nice if it was.
That's
actually.
maybe why it's not in my original book. I have an old Shermer's, probably belonged to my dad, of the Friedheim. James Honecker, though, was a really great writer. I think, wasn't he on the faculty of Juilliard or
I
something
think
like that?
so.
I've got a few of his books that he wrote about piano, and music history, characters, and performance artists, things like
Okay, now, if you're wondering why I'm fawning over this, Arthur Friedheim was Franz Liszt's personal secretary.
that. And one of his last pupils.
Yeah, one of his last pupils. He used to, apparently, he used to,
Wear his
sort of
hair
wear his
long.
hair like
Like,
wore his hair like this.
Liszt would have worn.
Yeah,
He wore wire rimmed glasses.
yeah, he did.
But I understand he was a fine pianist.
Uh-huh.
He played a lot around Europe, and then eventually he did come to the United States. Did he settle in New York or Chicago?
I'm not sure about that part of his life. I have a book somewhere at my house. Somewhere. Once I
I'll look him up
Look,
quick while you're doing
but it's a book that both was put together by Arthur Friedheim and Alexander Solati,
it. Uh-huh.
and it's their. I think the book is just called Remembering Liszt.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it is kind of cool. But anyways, so there it is, Friedheim. Okay, here's the next one. Have you ever heard of Lily H. Phillip? No? Okay, so this is new to me too. This is Lily H. Phillip, piano technique, tone, touch, phrasing, and dynamics.
When was this first written?
I have absolutely no clue. I'm looking.
Good
It says,
page front.
well, this is a Dover edition.
Yeah, I can see that.
Let's see, piano study application technique, 1969. So it's not
That's
that
when
old.
she wrote it?
Well,
Is there copyright on the frontispiece page?
yeah. So I don't
Right
know
there.
who. Oh. 1969.
I wonder if she was a descendant of Isidore Philippe. Isn't that how he spelled his name?
I think so. You could be right.
2 L's, 2 P's.
Yeah. Oh, this is 1L.
Well, 1 L, 1,
Yeah.
2 P's. That's 2 P's at the end, right?
Yep, there are 2
That's
P's.
Isidore Philippe.
Could be his wife.
No, he was 19th century going into early 20th century. I'm thinking maybe a daughter or even a granddaughter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Duh. Yeah, there's very little about her here.
Well, here's some interesting quick information here real quick.
Sure, what?
I'm looking up Arthur Friedheim. He was born in 1859, died in 1932. He's Russian born, despite his name. He's a Jewish-Russian pianist. But I didn't know this. This is right here at the beginning. He's one of Franz Liszt's foremost pupils. One of Friedheim's students was Rhodia B. O'Brien Clyburn, the mother of 26th piano virtuoso Van Cliburn. So Arthur Friedheim was his mother's piano teacher.
So she's like third in line from Liszt, basically.
Yeah.
Liszt, Friedheim, and then Rhoda B.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, nonetheless, Van Cliburn is like fourth.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That is truly amazing. Okay, anyways, the back of this book says Ms. Philippe has distilled the experience of a lifetime of playing and teaching. She studied with the students of Liszt and Busoni. So she at least had good teachers then, huh? I mean, Busoni.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much better than that, really, rarely. So, but this thing covers melody, practice, and pedaling. It says here, practicing pianissimo, as many great pianists have been known to do. Practice pianissimo?
What's that?
It says practicing pianissimo, as many great pianists have been known to do, will help further technique and improve velocity.
Interesting.
Pianissimo? I'll have to read about it. I'll let you know.
Did you show it to him?
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
I'm not aware of this book at all.
I'm not aware of this book. I wasn't aware of the lady who wrote it, but I'll definitely give it my attention. And you probably can still get this book. It's a Dover edition, okay? Quite possibly. But then again, there's some Dover editions that have been discontinued. So.
Go ahead.
It's got photographs.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the Leshtitsky.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, that should be interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait to get. And you know what? Well, I'll bring that up next.
This is the tree of keyboard masters and their students.
Yeah. Oh, that's what that was?
Yeah.
Gosh.
This is
Your eyes are
cool.
better than that. What does it have?
It's worked out.
You see your name on there?
No. No. Did you know that,
What?
I forget what his first name was, but Nefa, Beethoven's teacher,
Nefa, yeah.
studied with Bach.
No way, that far back?
And then he taught Beethoven. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. What's his first name?
Don't remember.
I don't remember. But I remember that. Neefe, right?
Wow. Did you know
What?
that from Mozart as a lineage, now they don't say what Bach's teacher was, or Mozart, or Clementi's, they're at the top.
Yeah.
But Mozart, of course, went to Hummel, who actually taught Henselt.
Hummel did?
But on the other side, Mozart taught a person named Seyfried, who taught Markson, Edward Markson, who was Brahms's teacher.
No way.
And apparently also the teacher for Deppe, the one who did the book on Liszt's technique and stuff.
Wow.
So that lineage ends with Brahms and Deppe. but the lineage goes up to Mozart.
Huh.
I thought that was interesting. From Beethoven to Czerny, and then some of the important Czerny students were Kulak,
Theodore Kulak.
Leschetizky, and interestingly,
Uh,
the person named Dox studied with Czerny, but his student was Vladimir de Pachmann.
no way.
So de Pachmann goes back a couple generations directly to Czerny. And then, of course, there's Liszt.
Okay, good.
And then Liszt comes down the big line. There's a whole buttload of famous pianists. It's really quite interesting. And there's Chopin with his two teachers, Givny and Elsner. And then he had it's a few primary students. Fleurville. Chopin taught somebody named Fleurville, who taught Debussy.
Oh, that's wild.
Chopin taught Matthias, who taught Raoul Pugnol.
Oh.
And Chopin taught Mikuli, who taught Rosenthal, who was also taught by Liszt. That's amazing. Rosenthal studied with Chopin via Mikuli, Carl Mikuli, and with Franz Liszt directly. This is pretty cool. It goes all the way up to Ellie Nye.
Ellie Nye?
She was a student of Sauer. I didn't know that. Emil von Sauer?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
That is very cool.
It would be an interesting thing. Cool.
Yes. Okay, the next one I'm going to bring out to you is another Dover edition. And you already have this.
Oh, the Levine.
Remember this?
Yeah.
Levine? Okay.
That's a wonderful book.
Yes.
Very helpful information.
Yeah, I was thinking we could do a show on just this book one of these days. You know, I mean,
Well, we've talked about, having discussions on methodologies,
Yeah.
and various things like that, because we were a while when we first started the concept, and we're actually trying to make videotapes of it. We were, I think we're still wanting to look at the Leschetizky book.
Oh yeah,
Leschetizky method and talk about that.
Yeah.
But this is a wonderful little book.
Yeah, for some of you college kids or high school kids.
Really professionals. It's got some very, very right to the point, especially coming from Levine Joseph.
Yeah.
Ideas about pedaling and sound and various things like that.
Now, what struck me was the one chapter where he emphasized practicing left hand alone.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost a whole chapter, and he said he just couldn't, it was just focused on that. He kept talking about, let's just pretend for about, a month. He said a month.
Mm-hmm.
Your right hand isn't out of commission for a while. Just practice left hand, and he says you will notice a distinct difference the following days after practice.
He was highly regarded in his time for having an extraordinarily adept left hand. I don't know if he was left-handed, but people used to talk about the playing in his left hand was so incredibly, it was equal to the right in terms of its ability to delineate and play things. But
I also was quite surprised from reading this that Joseph Hoffman was not the only one that got to study with Anton Rubinstein.
Oh, Levine did as well.
He did too. He got to have a few lessons with the master as well. So if any of you pianists out there, have want some inspiration, no better inspiration than this guy here, Joseph Levine. He and his wife straight in from Moscow Conservatory, St. Petersburg. I don't even remember it.
From Moscow.
Yeah.
Yep. So they were founding members of the Juilliard School.
Yep.
Rosina taught Van Cliburn.
Van Cliburn, among others. Yeah.
And then one of their students who studied with both of them was Adele Marcus, who was on the faculty for many, many years.
Yeah. Okay, you ready for more?
Yep.
Okay. Let's move into a different media. This was probably the best find among the CDs I saw there. I only bought one CD this time around. This is Keyboard Sonatas by C.P.E. Bach by Danny Driver, pianist. From the program notes, he's from England. So, but he's recorded.
Did you listen to it?
I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. Let me show it to you. The CD cover still has the library labels on it, but this is what it looks like. It's released by the Hyperion label. And apparently this is Danny Driver reading the notes. He's quite the pianist. He's recorded the complete sonatas of York Bowen. York Bowen. Oh, well, he's, for me, looking at his scores, it's almost like the English Rachmaninoff. It really is. It's very dense. It has a lot in common, texture-wise, with Rachmaninoff. He's also written a number of piano concertos, of which he's recorded number 3. So, somewhere, what year is this? This was recorded in 2009, so I would imagine, according to the notes, he's supposed to release a CD of the piano music of Balakirev. Balakirev? Balakirev, good enough. Okay, anyways, that's the one we have. Now, you know what? When we talk about movies, we should call the segment PSI at the movies.
Okay.
Can we use that?
You going to do that now, or we're going to do that? Or are you going to finish with the books?
Well, I thought we'd take a break from the books and come back to it.
Okay.
Is that okay? All right. PSI at the movies. Here's one that very few people have heard. It's called The Accompanist. We don't talk. I mean, we talk about soloists and great pianists, but we rarely cover The Accompanist. Nobody I knew, except for the Richard Boringer. So, but that his daughter's in it as well.
So, did you watch it?
I did.
It's more
Oh,
sexy
come
scenes
on!
again.
It's not a. It's
This is why it gets.
It's PG. It's P. Don't listen to him. It's PG.
Not by the look of her backside.
Oh, come on. It's PG. All right. It's PG. It's in French. Okay. So.
Oh well. Yeah.
English subtitles.
Yeah. Cigarettes and sex and cognac.
Yeah.
Whenever it's French, it all goes together.
Yeah. Well, anyways, the movie is set quite possibly, I think, in World War II, and the Nazis are about to take Paris, possibly.
No, they did. Not
Well,
possibly.
Well, I'm just talking about this. Okay, I'm talking about the movies.
Yeah, Frenchmen will bend your ear about
But
that.
Anyways, this is about. Well, yeah, it says The Accompanist.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. I mean, accompanists, God gave them a gift. They're sensitive players. They're sensitive players, and they're almost. I hate to say it, but I know, probably you don't feel this way, but some of them almost seem to appear almost subservient to the soloists.
Oh, well, it depends on who they're playing with. But, there was a very famous Englishman, Gerald Moore.
Yes.
Wrote a wonderful book. I mean, you listen to him, he was, for example, a lot of the great videos or the recordings with Fischer Dieskau, for example. All that Schubert and everything. That was Gerald Moore. Wonderful pianist. He wrote a autobiography, and it was titled, Am I Playing Too Loud?
I remember that book. Do you have it?
I don't have his book.
You don't have his book? Yeah.
But I have, interestingly, 2 arrangements that he wrote for solo piano from a Schumann song and a Schubert song.
Is one of them
He actually-
music?
Huh?
On the music?
Andi Music is one, and the other one by Schumann. Du bist wie eine Blume, I think.
Oh, okay.
Du bist wie eine Blume. Like that, something like that. Yeah, and they're actually his own compositions.
Yeah.
There's some wonderful performances of it with so many people, but especially Schwarzkopf.
Yeah.
Walter Suskind was her husband, and he managed to get Gerald Moore and Schwarzkopf together for some wonderful performances. Yeah. No, but yeah, accompanist. I was talking about this with my partner yesterday. There's a colleague of mine, Chuck, who was a wonderful, wonderful guy, big, tall fellow, a bit heavy set when he was younger, but tenorish voice, and shall I say, I love Chuck. Just very much a flamboyant, opera fanatic geek. I think but this is in Boulder, he realized his wasn't the kind of voice that people would necessarily really want to hear singing the stuff, even though he knew everything. There's people, he knew every song in the opera, but everything about it. He was a wonderful coach. He started doing that to get by and working with singers, and they liked working with him. He was incredibly knowledgeable. And then he kind of really applied himself pianistically to be better at that part of it, to really play well. And he did well enough. I mean, I think now he's a professor in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. I remember he went up to Fort Collins for a while. He and I were colleagues at the time. I was older than him, a bit ahead of him. But I also was a piano soloist. I was getting my doctorate in piano solo, but I loved playing with the singers. And I got a lot of work accompanying because, I brought in concerto chops into playing, for singers. And everybody wanted me. I remember a particular singer I worked with. Hello, if you ever see this. Emily Bullock is a longtime professor in Pennsylvania now. She was one of my favorite collaborators back in Colorado at that time. Did some wonderful things. I remember a Spanish concert we did with music of Joaquin Turina and Donados and stuff. And it was some kick-ass music. That took some fingers to play. But magnificent. She was a wonderful singer to work with. But Chuck, he eventually got into it really big time, and he's on the faculty and doing that. But it's funny, the accompanist, and he says it's not a terribly well-known movie. Yeah. It's probably because of the subject matter.
Oh, it's not because of the subject matter. Oh, good.
Now you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
I'm just making fun of it.
Gosh, Mark.
Where would singers be without their pianists?
Yeah. But anyways, you can see the piano accompanist right there in the middle of the box. That's that young lady. And, all right, in a nutshell.
Did you show them the picture on the back?
I'm not going to show them the picture in the back. Anyways, in a nutshell.
That's also the
movie is about, there's an opera singer involved, a very prestigious opera singer. She's a soprano, and she's married to this guy who's a bit of a businessman, but he's a shark. He's a bit of a shark. He's thinking that the Nazi takeover of Europe would be a good investment. So he wants to make money in that investment.
He's not Jewish, right?
He's not Jewish.
Oh, okay. He's a smart guy.
He's not. So basically, he goes with his wife, the soprano, and they're touring, and they bring this young lady along. She couldn't be more than 18 years old in this movie. And all she's concerned, she's arguing with, she took lessons from her mother, and she had very good teachers. And, she grew up to be a very accomplished pianist as well as, even more as an accompanist. Mm-hmm. And this lady, the soprano, feels like she has to have her. Oh. But only in the condition that she'll stay devoted to her and will always be with her, as long as she keeps performing and singing.
Let me guess, the husband wants to be with her as well.
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
All he's interested. No, this has nothing.
It's French.
Yes, it's French.
Oh, so the pianist and the singer.
But you have to understand.
They get closer than a professional relationship.
No.
No.
Oh. No.
I'm way off.
No, you're way off. Way off. So let me tell you the situation. The husband, the business shark, he's busy making deals, and people around him are becoming cowards because of the Nazis. And he says, basically he's saying, tell him, he's trying to convince him. He says, you're in this with me, and we're handcuffed in this together. You stick around till we're done. And basically, he's just threatening everybody. He's a bully, okay, basically. Now, the wife, on the other hand, she has been fascinated with the French resistance, particularly the leader.
Oh.
And so, without her husband noticing and their closest friends noticing, she is having an affair with the leader of the French resistance. So much so,
singing her tra-la-las with
so much so that she's really, really obsessed with the guy.
Uh-oh.
Okay, and so the only one that knows really is
the
accompanist, who's promised to be devoted, faithful to her in everything, in everything.
Yeah.
So they decide to go on tour. You'll get to see her have a spat with her mother, because her mother says, you can't be just traveling, gallivanting all over Europe with this lady and not knowing what's going to go on. We're under a lot of danger right now. He says, you can't, this is a bad time to be traveling. He says, but she says she wants a future. He says, this is about the close to having a real future, as I'm going to get. My profession, she says her profession is hard enough as it is. So she says she wants to take a chance. Now, sadly, she's very naive. She has you'll see her in different situations dealing with people. She's very naive. Okay, she doesn't know the kind of people that she has to deal with at the parties, the receptions, the kind of audiences, the managers, stage managers, everything she has to deal with. And she just has no experience in how to deal with people. And that's what gets her into trouble. Because no matter how she deals with these people, she has to stay faithful with this lady, the one she's accompanying, the soprano. And I'm okay. I don't want to spoil the movie.
Well, don't spoil it.
Don't spoil it?
No,
okay, if you're interested in it, check out the movie. I'm sure it's probably showing somewhere. Okay.
Oh, is it a new movie?
No, it's not a new movie. Like I said, oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you. I went looking for this box, I wish I did my research better. There is no, there it is. 1992.
Yeah, I don't think you still show it anymore.
No, 1992. Yeah. I wish I did better research on this, because I'd like to know who the actual performers on the soundtrack is. You do get to hear snatches of Brahms, Lieder. You hear some.
Is it in French or English?
It's in, the movie itself is in French, but she sings in German. You get to hear the German. You hear her sing Mozart. You hear the young lady play Schumann's Traumerei. To make it, she's playing because she's on the phone and she's trying to get her husband to convince her husband that they're rehearsing and she's not gallivanting somewhere else. So, but anyways, it was a good movie. I liked it, but it's not a feel-good movie. I'll give you that warning. It is not a feel-good movie.
It's got Nazis in it.
Well, aside from that, the actual story among these people.
Not unless you are in those kinds of movies,
Oh, yeah, right. Yes. Okay. Now, let's come back to books here. Come back to Earth, please, Mark.
Okay.
Come back to Earth.
Right.
Now, I know I've showed you these before. It's the Piano Today magazines.
Oh.
Okay, take it. Here, I'll show them to you, but I want to save this best surprise for last. Mark, if you want it, this is yours.
Oh,
Okay?
thank you. This is Christopher O'Reilly.
Yeah, it's Christopher O'Reilly,
Yeah.
one of our guys. This one is,
He plays at he's a professor.
yeah.
One of my alma maters.
This is Ruth Laredo. They have an issue for Ruth Laredo.
Ooh, I love her. Plug it rock.
And you may have this one too.
Oh, I get that one too?
Yes. Now, this last one I have to keep because I don't have a copy of this one.
Oh.
I'm sad to say, to tell you this, But this next issue is of Arthur Rubinstein and his daughter.
His daughter?
His daughter is at the piano.
Reminiscence. Cool.
Take a look at this. I do not have this issue in my collection.
Oh, thank you, Elmer.
You're welcome.
Let me see who is this person called? Yeah. Do you know who that person was?
I have absolutely no clue who that person was.
This is the introductory issue. This is the very first one of Piano Today.
It is? I did not know
It says
that.
introductory because there's no date on it.
Oh,
This is the very first one that they ever made.
wow. So
That's
I got a
pretty
collector's.
Well, look at that. The complete edition is coming. The Great Pianists. Available October 1999.
Oh, the great pianist. Is this the one with this Phillips?
Yeah,
collection?
the huge collection of all the things.
Yeah. How many names did they collect on that thing? Well, almost 100, isn't it?
There was like 100 CDs, at least somewhere around there, with 2 in each one. So
Yeah.
it's like a 200 CD set.
I remember reading reviews about it.
Mm.
You remember reading reviews about it?
It's a big deal, but I didn't get into it. I just thought it was
Well,
beyond my capacity.
I read a bunch of reviews on those recordings,
Yeah.
and there's some controversial things about what people said about it. They weren't sure they picked,
The best people.
the best people to represent the best of the 20th century.
I can see that, but there's 100 pianists.
Yeah,
There's a hell of a lot of good people in there.
yeah, there are a lot of good people.
And there's occasionally somebody that I didn't know about for the longest time. Nelson Freire. I didn't know who he was until I began to make the association with Martha Argerich.
Yeah.
And then she herself said one of her favorite pianists was Nelson Freire.
Yeah.
Who was a colleague of hers in Argentina.
Yeah.
And I got 1 or 2 recordings of his so far. And I would say I would agree. Some really lovely played Schumann.
Oh yeah.
Very thoughtful. Very. It's not. What would one say? It's not pedantic, but it's also not like wildly rubato-ish or weird or anything.
Yeah.
But it's really persuasive and lovely playing, beautifully shaped.
Mm-hmm.
I had an ear for singing in a kind of a way, I think.
Oh, of course.
But there's a masculine power about it in a way as well. I don't know how to say it. It's not necessarily in my ear only because I might be more familiar with some pianists with, that's Rubinstein or Dabney or Horowitz, Horowitz, something there. But it was,
Let me show him one more time.
Yeah. It's kind of cool.
Arthur Rubinstein and his daughter.
So that's the younger one, right?
I think so. I'm not sure.
What was his daughter's name? He had 2 children. There was Paul and Ava to begin, right?
One of them was not John?
And then John and Elena, or what was the...
I don't know. I just know John.
Paul and Ava, and John and the other daughter. That might be her. Or that is... I don't know, is that picture... If it could be Ava. Oh. Yeah. It's interesting, that when you hear about it and read about it and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I don't know what all happened and what went into it and stuff, but Paul and his father seem to become pretty estranged. You never see anything about Paul Rubinstein. And no association really made with the family much or anything. I don't know what came to that. But of course, John was...
Oh yeah, the actor?
Yeah, he became the actor. I saw him recently.
You did?
As a really young guy.
Uh-huh.
On Dragnet.
On Dragnet?
The color TV series Dragnet from the 60s.
Was he?
Jack Webb.
Yeah.
And I was looking at this guy, and he was kind of young. Maybe high school age, teenager age.
Yeah.
And I was listening. Actually, I caught it from the voice.
Yeah.
More than I did immediately by his visage.
Yeah.
But I said to Laura, that's John Rubinstein. I'm sure that's John Rubinstein. This would have been, 67, 68?
Yeah.
The colored Dragnet series. And I looked in the credits, and it was him. I've seen him in different things. He showed up in a lot of different things. He even shows up in one of the Monk TV episodes.
He does?
Yeah. And he's quite a busy boy.
Yeah, I imagine.
I don't think he never really made it big time, but he did a lot of character acting.
I'm not sure, but I think I remember seeing him as a kid. He was actually playing Chopin's Concerto Number 2 with an orchestra.
John?
John, I think I did see it. I wasn't sure
I didn't know how much.
because I thought at first I was like, oh, it's going to be Arthur Rubinstein until the camera, closed in. I was like, oh, that's not Arthur.
It makes sense. He probably would have done. He and his dad hung out big time. What I understood was that when he was a teenager, he used to go a lot and was at the recording sessions his dad did. And he turned the pages for his dad at the recording sessions.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he was there for the whole experience, listened to the playbacks and all that. Really took it in. Really absorbed time with his dad. There's a Polish tribute to Arthur Rubinstein video that's up. It was mostly all filmed in Poland because Rubinstein went back very late in his life.
Yeah.
And they were just vetting him, all over the place. And John is the narrator. And it's really sweet the way he talks about it. He calls my father. And I think even once he says my dad. No, he was born in California, America.
Yeah.
But can you imagine calling Arthur Rubinstein Dad?
Dad?
Oh, can I tell a really quick story?
All right, sure.
In Slip Disc, Norman Liebrecht's thing on online, I've got they send it to me as part of my newsfeed. There's been this interesting sharing going on recently where it's maestros in their cars, and they're just seeing, famous conductors in their vehicle. George Sell supposedly was incredibly in love with this massive Buick that he had in the 1950s. Of course, Foncarion had everything. Yeah. Carlos Gladwin, some kind of, big, tall guy. I don't know how he got into this little cramped European sports car, but that was his. And different people, now there's singers and this coming up. Well, there's some different ones that came up. And then some people said, well, there's a pianist, I forget his name, who wrote in. He said, well, it would be interesting to find out how many professional pianists don't drive. And he said, for example, I'm one of them. I don't drive. I'm driven, usually. Either by a chauffeur or a cab. I don't remember who it was that wrote it in. But then he wrote some other people that he knew about. He said, for example, Brendel doesn't drive. And there was a whole list of people that he said. And then, of course, Glenn Gould was infamously a bad driver. Get out of the way! Here comes Glenn Gould,
I didn't know he drove.
But the funny story was, because then he said, and I wonder about certain other people. Of course, Rachmaninoff loved cars. There's pictures of him with his big, car. But one of them was listed was he didn't think Arthur Rubinstein drove. And somebody wrote, and they said, no. In fact, if you read in My Many Years, the second volume, he talks about when he was living in Southern California, he lived in Hollywood, basically. And though it's really sweet, the guy just laid out what was in the book pretty much. And apparently the way it worked out is that, Arthur's from like 1887 and grew up in Europe. And come on, people, especially back then, there were not that many cars, and only rich people tend to have them, but you don't need to have a car in Europe. Between trains and maybe a bus occasionally or a cab and walking, you can get damn near anywhere except way out in the countryside in Europe. But he came to the United States, Second World War, he became a citizen, and they were living out in Beverly Hills. Shasha Ivets was out there, Rachmaninoff was out there, Bruno Walter eventually, a little bit later, was out there. Anyway, it's the way it goes. He says, at first, he said, I would ask his wife, who was much younger than him. She was 18, he was 42 when they got married. She knew how to drive. Nella.
Yeah.
And he said, Nella, can you take me to the barber? I got an appointment with the barber. And she said, does it have to be today? I'm really busy. I have so many things to do. Can we do it tomorrow or make it another time? So he said he got kind of tired because he didn't know how to drive. And if they lived out in Brentwood, which at the time was out in the outskirts of Hollywood, outside of town.
Yeah.
And he said there were wonderful cafes and theaters and things just in town and lots of things to go see. And so he said he got tired of begging around for a ride from his wife. And of course, they had a chauffeur in that, but you know.
Yeah.
He said, I don't want to go. Can you take me to the grocery store? I want to go get a coffee at the cafe. To take a chauffeur-driven car. And then he thought that was a little bit too King Charles, you know. Wouldn't do that.
Okay.
So he said he finally asked around, and I forget who it was that told him, but there was a German guy, interesting, very severe and serious German fellow, that he was told was a really good driving instructor. So he studied with him for 2 weeks. He said it was exhausting because he said he made him repeat every maneuver 10 to 20 times.
Jeez.
Just over and over. Do it again, do it again, do it again. He says it was like studying with Heinrich Barth.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. He said, but after 2 weeks, he said, I felt very confident and I knew all my highway laws and everything about how to drive. And I went into the BMV or whatever you call it at the time, and I took my written test and passed with flying colors, and then I went up and I did driving test, and I passed with flying colors, and they gave me my driver's license. They said I held it up. They said the greatest example of freedom that I'd ever had in my life. I could drive anywhere in America that I wanted to. And he said, but then he said it occurred to me, but what am I going to drive? They had a big car, you know, a big family car with the showroom.
Yeah.
And you know, this is the 50s, I think. So he said, he asked a German driving teacher, what do I do? He said, well, I know some dealers, you know, they've got some really nice cars. So he took him to this dealership, and he said he found this mid-50s, was it? Huge white Cadillac convertible. Really nice car. And I mean, those things were like bigger than tanks.
Yeah,
big, beautiful car. But he said the thing was, you know, I thought this was very interesting. He said, I didn't want to buy a new car. And he said, I understood, and especially I had seen, you know, that they had wonderful used cars that looked, you know, brand new. Because, you know, everybody used, like my dad almost was like every 2 years he'd trade one in.
Yeah.
My wife's great-grandmother used to be, she'd go in every year and trade in for the next model, trade in for the next.
Really?
Like, people used to do that.
Wow.
Because, you know, cars were like between $1,500 to maybe $3,000 or $4,000 for a new one.
Yeah.
And if you went in and you traded immediately, you got a hell of a deal for the trade-in. And then, you know, you're basically just paying on the car for a year, trade that in, get a new one, you know, just keep going like that. So he got himself this, say, 50, something like that, Cadillac, big, huge-ass convertible. And he said he then proceeded to drive back home to Brentwood. And he said he tooted on the horn enough that they brought the whole family and all the servants out and everything. And he went into the garage and parked very safely in the other space in the garage. And they got out and they said, what? And he showed him his driver's license. He said, see, I got my driver's license. I never have to ask you again for driving. And he says it was wonderful because it was his favorite coffee shop he went to at a hotel in town. And he would love to go to see the movies at the theaters and different things like that. And need be take the kids, you know, for something and stuff like that. It was wonderful. It's this wonderful thing. There's a little slight addition to that story, which is also hilarious. Now, it's interesting because Horowitz talks about this with, wasn't it Thomas Beecham as well? The famous English conductor.
All right.
They're doing the Tchaikovsky concerto.
Right. Yeah.
And Horowitz, I think it was the first time he'd done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if it was between, I was either in Hamburg or London.
Yeah.
But what it amounted to was Beecham wasn't doing what Horowitz wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he said he felt that in the first two movements it was pretty boring and it wasn't really capturing the audience that well.
Yeah.
He didn't have a chance to shine.
Yeah.
So he said in the third movement, he just decided, screw it, and he left them all in the dust. And just
never caught up.
Never caught up through the whole third thing. But he did say in this interview that he did with the 60 Minutes guy, he said, I think he did not know the score well enough.
Yeah.
You know? And he's always conducting by memory, you know? So the second time we meet, you know, 10 years later, something like that, he says, we're doing Tchaikovsky again. And he says, you know, he's a clever and funny man. He says, Mr. Horowitz, he says, this time I have the score. But this story with Rubinstein, Beecham was in California
Okay.
to do the Beethoven Fourth with Rubinstein.
Ah.
And the story was that the rehearsal didn't go well. Rubinstein was not happy.
Oh.
But Beecham had been dropped off, there wherever they probably in LA somewhere.
Yeah.
Philharmonic performance. That's probably where they did it. And he knew that Rubinstein had a car.
Yeah.
And he said, "Would you mind taking me to such and such a place?"
Yeah.
And Rubinstein decided he was going to get back at Beecham a little bit.
Okay.
So he said, "Absolutely." He said, "This is wonderful." He says, "This will be like a very special memory for me because it's the very first day since I got my license. I get to drive my new car with my new license." Totally lying. It was like he's a virgin driver, He said then he proceeded over the next 45 minutes to drive totally out of control, too fast, making bad turns in this, purposely went through a red light.
Oh, God.
All this kind of stuff. He said by the time they got to where they were going, Beecham was just almost
Oh, no!
shaking in his shoes. He was very British and didn't say anything, but Rubinstein said, "Yeah, I got him for that rehearsal."
That's great.
Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, no,
I interrupted
okay.
about the composer or the conductors.
Okay. All right. You want a book or you want to see a score?
Whatever.
Okay. Well, I found this.
Two piano pieces.
2 piano pieces by Aaron Copland.
I don't know either one of these. Were these copyrighted? Oh, these are new pieces. That's why. Because the copyright's 84.
Yeah.
He's pretty damn old by then.
Yeah.
It looks thoroughly like Copeland. Multiple meters.
Yeah.
Did you play through it at all?
I did. I plodded through it. Now, it's interesting. I remember years ago, he gave an interview, I think it was 60 Minutes. And Chris Wallace, I think, was the interviewer.
Mike Wallace.
Mike Wallace.
Yeah.
Mike Wallace.
He's the guy that interviewed the other one I'm talking about. Go ahead.
He asks him, he says, "Do you compose anymore?" And he says, "No." He says, "But why not?" And Aaron Copland says, "Because it just doesn't flow anymore." He says, "You get to an age," and he says, the flow is just not there. And that was interesting. I mean, because later on, he still left sketches, and that was it. Sketches. And since these pieces, I'm guessing are late works of his, and I notice how much shorter they are than his previous pieces were. The piano sonata, that's near 20 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
The piano fantasy, which is almost like 50. I mean, it's a thick sucker. It's like that. That one was dedicated to William Capell.
You want to show it to them?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
There's 2 titles in there. One of them's to it. What's the name? Bennett Lerner?
Midday Thoughts and Proclamation, published by Boozy and Hawks, and they are dedicated to Bennett Lerner. Yeah, Bennett Lerner. The first one is Midday Thoughts. The second one is Proclamation for piano, and it's dedicated to Philip Rainey. That's what I have for you.
It's Boozy and Hawks.
It is Boozy and Hawks.
Yeah.
Okay, and I found this book, The Dynamic Performance, A Performer's Guide to Musical Expression and Interpretation by Donald Barra, B-A-R-R-A, with a foreword by Yehudi Menuhin. Ooh. Looks like a very old book. There's a picture of the fella in the back.
There's Donald Barber, UNT Eastman, Juilliard, and Columbia. He's a conductor. He ended up on the faculties at Columbia, City College of New York, and the University of Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Had quite the hairdo and the face thing. Definitely looked like a conductor.
Wow.
No, he was.
I haven't read the book yet.
Show me the picture.
Oh, okay. The picture is in the back. I could show this picture.
Yeah.
That's him. Donald Barra. Barra. Okay.
You generally eventually get around to reading and listen to all the stuff you bought.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, I eventually do. Matter of fact,
I tend to have, in recent years, gotten ahead of myself, so those are all things I tend to read.
okay.
Some of them I have, but not many.
Now, I had to pick this one up. This is the piano reduction of the Nutcracker Ballet, the complete, by Tchaikovsky. And it's in Dover edition, but it's obviously been used. There's some pencil markings here and there. Even though you have it fully notated, you do miss some parts in here. There's
But you know what this stuff
the
exists.
intermezzo. I'm sorry?
You know what this exists for? Accompanying the dancers in the schools.
Yeah.
I didn't do too much of that, but I got invited here and there once in a while.
Yeah.
Actually to substitute for a couple different people that I knew who were unable to do it. And it was an interesting experience. It's, the first time in my life I think I was in college. First time anybody ever called me maestro. The dance instructor.
Wow.
And the dancers. And, I was 23, 24. Certainly not worthy of the title at that point. And it was odd because the dynamic in the dance is far different than like in the voice world.
Yeah.
Because the guy at the piano presumably knows his stuff, plays and all this and that. And at the same time was able to do it in a way that it could be danced to. And they rely heavily on the musician for that. But in the voice world, to start with, you're not even necessarily an accompanist. You're what they call a repetiteur.
Yes, that word again.
Give the notes to the singers so they can catch on and help them, and then maybe play underneath and stuff. But
tell them that word again.
Repetiteur.
Yes, I just learned this word last fall. Last fall, mind you. Didn't know what it was.
In English, we just call it vocal coaching, but that has a broader connotation. Although repetiteur is actually basically a coach, although traditionally, in a more traditional setting, you just got the singer more or less prepped and played the accompaniment with them so that they knew how to sing with the music. And then usually that was because you were going to go to the true maestro, the conductor, and then he, would have been he for sure then, was going to tell you how he wanted you to do it and everything.
Yeah.
And then depending on, how far along you were, and if you were a really fine pianist, you might actually become an accompanist in the rehearsals. Bruno Walter started out that way, for example. He started out in Hamburg as a repetiteur and worked his way up through the Hamburg Opera. Usually what happened is you work up from working with the singers, things like that, preparing them, and maybe if you were a good enough pianist, they ask you to do the playing of stage rehearsals from the piano before they brought in the orchestra. And, if you showed plenty of aptitude, the conductor might start to want to rely on you, confide in you about things, and then even if you're lucky, you got to the point where the maestro might be so big and so illustrious and all that, he would be there and put the ideas, this is what I want to do, this is the tempo, this is what we're going to do. Now help get the orchestra ready, okay? So then you'd be in there and helping to run the rehearsals to get them prepared. And then basically for the stuff, maybe immediately before the dress rehearsal, up in would come the conductor and I'd take over everything. The system worked very well. It was very structured in Germany. And this is how Bruno Walter met Gustav Mahler when he was based in Hamburg. And Bruno Walter was his intendant, meaning he was his primary assistant. And Mahler died rather unexpectedly when he came back from America. And Walter up in Hamburg was the one who gave the premiere of the 9th, I think in the famous concert, he did the 8th and the 9th symphonies and Das Lied von der Erde, singing with the orchestra. Can you imagine that concert? The Symphony of 1000, Symphony number 8, already goes on for practically an hour and a half. But that's pretty cool. That probably was in the hands of somebody who played Nutcracker rehearsals.
Yeah. Well,
who's the arrangement by? Does it say?
It's Tchaikovsky's.
He did it?
Oh yeah, it's his.
Tchaikovsky reduced it?
I believe he did. See, oh no.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not. Well, depends on what you mean by arranged. Here it says arranged by Sergei Taneyev. Revised by the composer. Taneyev, yeah. Okay.
Taneyev was a contemporary. It's
Oh.
interesting. So he must have done the original reduction.
Yeah.
And then Tchaikovsky actually went in and touched it up.
Yeah.
Way one of things. Tchaikovsky was not just a composer, but he was a teacher, wasn't he, of composition in the latter part of his life?
I think so. Interesting about, how do you say it? Taneyev? Taneyev. Yeah, both Rachmaninoff and Scriabin studied counterpoint with him.
Uh-huh.
And have you ever seen that Prelude and Fugue that was it G sharp minor by Taneyev? You could see where they got, it looks very Scriabin-esque and very Rachmaninoff-ish. So.
That was interesting because when I was younger, it takes a while to learn all this stuff to get informed. Yeah. We basically, when you're younger, when you're in college and this and that, this is the nature of things. This is where the studying longer, being a doctor, or totally delving into this world. It's like being an archaeologist or a dumpster diver and
yeah.
What's that guy called?
Indiana Jones. Yeah.
Well, it's like when Rachmaninoff showed up. Just historically, he was kind of at the time, because the British 1930 edition has a really not favorable, tiny little article on Rachmaninoff.
Yeah.
They also panned Liszt at the time.
They did? Liszt?
Yeah, there's an early
the
30s, the British. They've corrected. I've got the 1980 edition. That's a lot different from the original articles, but I was led to believe that Rachmaninoff was, my impressions back in those days, as I was taught, he was a bit of out of his time.
Yeah.
He was writing very tonal, beautiful music, as though that was wrong.
Yeah. The term they liked using was that. Oh, what was that word?
Anachronistic.
Yes,
anachronistic. Not a person of his time.
Yeah.
But then I finally heard some recordings of pieces by Nikolai Metner, who's older than Rachmaninoff.
Yeah.
And Balakirev, who I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably heard Islamic at some time, but then more stuff. And then I began to discover things like, Horowitz liked to play Moskovsky. And then I played the D-flat major prelude that I played. Is that by the Russian Sergei?
Rachmaninoff?
No. The one
Bortkiewicz?
Bortkiewicz, yeah. And realized, no, there's an entire line of this kind of heavily romantic and richly textured and
Yeah.
really going out there, you know, with the kaleidoscopic harmonies and stuff, but still embracing tonal music and rock on it. That's what he grew up with. That's what he loved, and that's what he continued to write, more or less.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some, maybe, you know, some moments in his music, but no, it's fundamentally like that. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, recently I was listening to Georgi Shandor in the first Georgi Shandor, I guess it is.
Yeah.
The first part, I realized I only had the first whole thing, but first 5 Prokofiev sonatas.
Oh yeah.
And the first one is a little bit, but it's amazing. Then from the second on, Prokofiev had such an immediately his own language.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Very quickly, you know, the way he wrote it. Of course, it was Scriabin, but the interesting thing is that when you go back in there, like you'd said, these guys didn't just wake up and invent a new kind of light bulb. They were continuing on, and that's the way most of it is.
Yeah.
There's a language and a culture that we're born into, and some of us, you know, especially if you're born into the middle part of it, that might be all you do in your lifetime. If for some reason you happen to be, not that it's under your control, but coming towards the end of a phase of things, and there's this thrust for new ideas and things happening, it doesn't just happen.
No.
There are transfigured things, like we talked, I think, the last show, which I lost, but it's not news. But Late List anticipates Schoenberg. There's a piece which is nearly atonal. Yeah. And there's also the famous from the third year pilgrimage, I'm thinking in French.
Le Jardin de la Vista.
Yeah, the Villa d'Este, in Italy. That's in and of itself the only piece in the third year that was published that way. But there's so much Debussy and Ravel in that music. And then there's some little tiny pieces. There's Nuage Gris, Reverie, and some odd pieces that he wrote, 5 Hungarian pieces for Thomas Kalani or something like that. A lot of interesting, different pieces. And strangely enough, I find with some of the little short ones, there's a hint of Ernst Krenek.
Oh yeah,
you know, Liszt preceded him, but it's an overlap of things. But then occasionally you get somebody who's really out of time. I was reading a long article, really quite well done. It was a review of concerts that are happening up in the Boston area of Charles Ives' complete piano sonatas and chamber music with strings. And it was a review of both of that, plus a discussion of music. What was that guy doing? I mean,
I know.
I mean, he's contemporary with McDowell.
Yeah, I know. That's the weird part.
Edward McDowell, who, if you know some of his music, the Wild Roses, very famous piece, but there's some decent sonatas he wrote, you know. Way. It's not anything as good as Liszt or as forward as Liszt, because he's actually a little behind where Liszt would have been and where Wagner came in and such. But then there's Charles Ives up there, and he graduated from Eastman, didn't he, or something like that?
I don't know.
I forget what school. It was a big school.
Yeah, it was very well known.
And then almost immediately started to write this out there stuff. I mean, you know, he had written serial atonal music 30 years before Schoenberg even began to really formally write it out and think about what it was and organize it as a new tonal language. And then slamming together all this stuff, it's, I mean, you know, there's certain things, like he does the wonderful one where he has, it all came from his experience of being at a festival and there were 4 marching bands that all approached the park
Yeah, I
from different
that.
directions, and you could hear the cacophony of all the music as it
Yeah.
was coming together as they got closer. I mean, the next time that you hear stuff like that is John Cage's stuff in the 60s when he wrote happenings pieces and various things like that. So occasionally there's this inexplicable burst of originality. Really
absolutely.
I mean, another guy that comes to mind a different way is Gesualdo.
Gesualdo, yeah.
Gesualdo. And there's a very interesting history about that guy.
Yeah, he's still alive, right?
No, this is way back.
Oh, way back?
Gesualdo. He's the guy that wrote the strange music who murdered his wife and her lover. This is back in the time of between Ockeghem and
that far back.
And
Dupre?
Dupre.
Okay, all right, you're that far back. I didn't.
He was an Italian aristocratic guy. Wrote some rather odd, sometimes going off of keys and places that were a little strange. But it was, regarded, and he's definitely placed in there as one of the important, interesting composers from that period of time. I'm thinking 16th century, 1500s perhaps.
Yeah.
I'm a little dim on that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just chattering about that. But
that's okay.
That all came out of this thing here with Danae.
Talking about these composers that break through like that, we should mention Peter Schickli, shouldn't we?
Oh, yeah.
Peter Schickli, a.k.a. Peter Q. Bach. He just passed away recently.
And he was from Juilliard or Easton.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Peter Schickli. I used to listen to his radio show, Schickli Mix.
Well, now, if you listen to his own compositions, he actually wrote some serious stuff under his own name.
Yeah. He did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There's some
serious stuff?
Well, yeah, it was intended to be serious. Yeah, it was like the real thing.
Well, I always thought his humor was serious.
Well, in a way, I mean, some of the pieces, and as he became more famous, that became the way.
Okay.
But no, C.P. Bach, not C.P. Bach. P.D.Q. Bach was, that was all imaginative, really creative stuff. Yeah.
Did you read did you read into the logic he talked about in his minuet in 3.5/4 meter? He said that whenever Peter Q. Bach had to dance the minuet, he was bowling, and so he needed an extra beat to keep up. I used to get a big kick out of that.
Wonderful.
So it takes intelligence to come up with that kind of humor.
1, 2, 3, and 1, 2,
3,
and 1. 2.
Yeah.
It's a 3.5, right?
It's a 3.5. Yeah. So. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. He even did an album with John Kimura Parker.
Oh, really?
You ever seen that picture
Yes.
where they're sitting back to back on the bench and they're holding pistols like this?
Oh,
like they're going to do a duel. I never listened to the album.
I didn't know that was him.
That was him. That was John Kimura Parker.
Now, did he write the baseball thing about Beethoven under his name or PDQ?
I think it was PDQ.
Did he?
I think he did. Oh, you're talking about the one where he does the play-by-play, the Beethoven's Fifth?
Yeah.
Where they go, da-da-da-da, and they're off. So, yeah. And then the French horn solo, da-da-da-da-da. And he goes up as a commentator. He says, oh, he really blew that one. I'm sure he's going to be hearing about that one during halftime. I said, we'll have to see, who is that player? He said, they read out the name's player. And he says, well, we don't know if he'll still have a job. I said, so we'll see. He says, but he's been there for years. He's practically iconic in that orchestra.
I don't know if it was, but if you look at Peter Schickli, and it's Schikele, or if it was PDQ Bach. It's unfortunate that people nowadays may not know anything about him.
Yeah, that's sad. He had his own radio show.
Because back in the 60s and the 70s and 80s, and that was probably part of it, the intelligentsia, the progressive minds that were looking at, breaking down all the barriers. Again, a period of time and change. And there was a lot of intelligent people behind that movement. And I mean, a lot of people that went into doing the marijuana I don't think the real hard users, but the marijuana crap like that. They became professors, and some big people in the world, back in those days. Who was it that said he inhaled? No, he didn't inhale. Was that Clinton?
That was Clinton.
I smoked it, but I didn't inhale. That's so true of that period of time, But I think PDQ Bach came out of this kind of intelligent, progressive kind of mindset.
Probably did. Have you ever seen the way
people had a very sophisticated sense of humor. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was made sense too. Have you ever seen pictures of him?
Yeah.
Where he's like, he looks like a pirate.
Well, and then who was the other guy who did Switched On Bach?
Oh, Walter Carlos,
who became
Wendy. Yeah.
Now, this was an eye opener for us. It was a little hard.
Okay.
Back in those days, it was hard for me to get my head around it.
Yeah, I thought he
This
just
is a
changed
guy
his
named
name.
Walter Carlos. Is American or English?
I think he was English.
Okay, because the only place where he could have gotten the surgery was Europe back in those days.
Probably. Yeah.
But I've got the album.
You
Switched On Bach. Yeah, I got it. Where it's got a picture of this guy, and he's got the whole
powdered wig and everything.
wig and the whole thing looking very much like Bach with the vestments and everything, standing next to a Moog synthesizer.
Huh.
Remember that album?
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was really interesting because in the 60s there was this whole... Well, before that, I forget the guy's name now, the Germanic name, but they started to do historic performance practice. LD was the name, something way back when. But then Gustav Leonhardt became a great proponent of Bach on the harpsichord and all that. Of course, Wanda Landowska is famous, I think ill-appreciated really for who she was and what she did. I think she had insightful performances.
Oh, absolutely.
As people are disgusted with the instrument that she had and stuff, but no, it's really a remarkable thing. But what's really, for me, quite interesting is her interpretations. I think they're quite telling. Her flute playing is wonderful.
Oh, yeah,
really
absolutely.
clear. All of that. But in the 60s, they started to get into Bach being in different mediums. And so who was the choir in the 60s? They did like bebop versions.
Oh! Was it the King Singers?
I don't think it was a King Singer.
No.
It was a British chorus, right?
Yeah.
And
I thought it was the King
it
Singers.
could have been the King Singers. It was mixed ladies and men?
No, just guys.
No, this is a mixed chorus.
It's a mixed chorus.
And they did all of these wonderful... They sounded like early 1960s little tight chorus singing, with the soloists.
And when did they come out?
In the 60s.
Early 60s. Okay, I don't know.
But there's wonderful Bach that way. I mean, as any of you realize, Bach is almost utterly transferable. No one a fancy name like that. They were the Swingle Singers.
The Swingle Singers.
You don't know them?
I've never heard of these
You gotta
guys.
look them up.
Swingle?
Swingle Singers, yep. And
You spell it the same way you hear it?
yeah, like Swingle.
Okay, with an L-E at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And then Walter Carlos shows up. I actually saw a performance by Robert Moog on a synthesizer at Wittenberg. He came and he played some stuff, with the
Wow.
And then that wasn't the same person, but I remember, Brainiac, kind of stuff was kind of out there. But come on, they didn't invent the wheel either. Before them was the French dude that wrote the electronic stuff in the earlier 20th century.
Gosh.
And then there was, Milton Babbitt.
Babbitt.
And
There was Perez.
Perez is who I was thinking of, yeah. But the most painful composer we had to study,
What?
especially it was in form and analysis, we did some study of Milton Babbitt. There was computer-generated music.
Yeah. I didn't know you could analyze that stuff. You could?
Oh, God. To me,
We didn't. We were spared from that. Any of you music majors from Ohio Wesleyan, we were spared from that. Count that as a blessing.
This was actually in 20th century music with Robert Howitt, but more so with Bob Crane, not the Hogan's
Right.
at Madison in form and analysis. We studied some of that.
Fuller.
Oh, jeez. You know, I've said, but you don't know anything yet because none of the shows are up really.
Yeah.
Piano's my religion.
Yeah, me too.
It's very
Look,
spiritual.
It's 5:15 here. I got to be going.
Oh, you got to go to church?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, let me show this quick one, okay?
Okay.
All right. Do you have this one?
I think I do, yeah.
Okay.
Well, not this edition.
Not this edition?
No.
Well, take a look at the score. See if you...
There's no table of contents.
I think that
there's no table of contents.
the table of contents must be at the end.
Oh.
Yeah, they do send everything backwards. And
That's interesting. No, I don't know these pieces.
You don't know these pieces?
No.
It's yours.
Really?
Yep, you can have it.
You have a copy?
I have 2 copies.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I don't.
They're very youthful works. They're very youthful works.
Interesting. There's a gavotte in 5/4.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. There's a canon.
Yeah.
I imagine these were written as student.
There's also a Fugetta at the end.
Very interesting. It looks like his stuff.
Particularly attractive is the Prelude and
Especially
Half.
with the stretches. Yeah. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Wow.
All right, the last part of the show and tell is this. I found, weeks ago, I brought in this, remember? Ingolf Dahl, the Sonata Seria. And, I took interest in it because
show it to them. They don't know what you're talking about.
All right. I brought this in a few weeks ago. It's a sonata for piano by Ingolf Dahl, which didn't mean a whole lot to me when I first found it. I found this score years ago in my college days when the library was actually getting rid of music. They were just getting rid of stuff. And I found this in the pile, and, well, I wanted to save it, so I took it home with me. And I didn't think of it for years until I watched a movie, A Boy Named Charlie Brown. And have you ever seen the movie, A Boy Named Charlie Brown? There's a sequence in there where Schroeder is all by himself, and he's at his piano, and he proceeds to play the Adagio from the Pathetique Sonata.
Yeah.
Right? And it shows this kaleidoscopic montage of Beethoven, all kinds of colors and things. But I watched the end credits to the movie, and interestingly enough, the pianist was Ingolf Dahl.
Wow.
Ingolf Dahl. And
probably got paid more to do that than anything he did in his life.
Yeah. Well, so lo and behold, last Sunday I find this. This is a variations on a French folk tune for flute and piano, and it's far more tonal than that work. So it's based on what is that? Au clair de la lune or something like that.
Oh, da ba 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 da 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 da. Dee 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 dee.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. Well, this is written when he was 23, so it might have been student work or something he did earlier on.
But they're clever. I mean, they're variations.
Yeah.
So he had some skill, in the variation forms.
Interesting. Good.
So, I know some of you have been waiting on big. Oh, you want to?
I got one.
Okay.
Can you tell, show?
All right, sure.
This is I haven't been able to listen to it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. 2 of my favorite interpreters. Again, you haven't heard us probably saying this yet because they're not up. But most of my collecting now has to do with specific artists.
Yeah.
I want to hear what certain people I've grown to really admire what they do with something. You show
This
that.
is
This is Murray Pariah and Claudio Abbado playing the complete works of Schumann, Robert Schumann for piano and orchestra.
Yeah. I've seen these scores. They're too expensive for me to buy.
Actually, I'm not familiar with the other 2 pieces, so I'm looking forward to hearing them. I know the concerto, but Murray Pariah is also one of those people. No, he's born in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I knew about him, but never. And I think there's a whole period of my life when I was later teens and then all the way through the doctoral years. I was so busy,
Yeah.
learning and doing, and being a pianist and musician,
Yep.
I didn't have a lot of time to be aware of who else was doing what, you know,
Oh,
because I was doing my own life, my own career, and things like that. So I've had time to be reflective on some things. And there's a huge passion for Murray Pariah's playing. I did buy the complete Mozart sonatas he did.
wow.
Eventually, now he lives in London. Has for some time.
Is he still around?
He's a sir, isn't he?
I don't think he's still
Yeah,
around,
he
is he?
is. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
think so. He's getting up there, but
Yeah, definitely.
I think he got served.
I did not know that.
And I guess you don't. It's not like like Rudolph Giuliani was served at one point, you know. But when they do it for foreigners, that it's a certain kind of title, but it's not the same equivalent as the British one.
Ah, they get special treatment.
Well, they're actually citizens. In some cases, of course, they can hold land if they're
Really?
served. Yeah,
Wow, I did not know that.
because that's actually how all those lords and counts and various kind of people were made in the ancient England. Was the king gave them land grants,
Wow.
and basically the whole country belonged to the king, whoever that was, and these people were basically appointed as governors in a sense to run that part of the country and make sure the peasants paid their dues and all that. So,
Well, shall we bring up the topic? I'm sure much of our viewers
got
were.
time for it?
Well,
What time do you gotta be at church?
I got to be there at 6.
So we got 10 minutes.
Okay.
Pause,
Well,
right?
let's tell them. I'm sure they're waiting with bated breath.
Well,
The topic
remember.
today was that. All right, the trend in music departments at colleges and universities these days, and it's been going on for a while.
Only in America?
As far as I know, in America.
God forbid.
Yeah, music departments across the country are accepting music majors who don't know how to read musical notation. I've noticed quite a few videos on YouTube. There's a lot for the move, but there are also many who are against it. I texted one of my college friends, and he was very adamant against it. He basically says, let's see if I can find it here. He says, this has been going on for a while, and I think it's I first heard of it probably 10 years ago or more when one of the retired music teachers from CV told me, oh, should I say OSU? Oh, it's true.
It is? They do that now?
OSU was offering a music degree for people who don't read music.
Separate from their other degree?
I haven't a clue. No, I
Are
mean,
they entered into the same program? Or?
I don't know what the deal is, but according to him, he said he heard it from a colleague of his. Now, I know for a fact that guitar players who get into the music school programs, they are notorious for not being able to read music.
Well, they read ligature, right? Is that what they call it?
Tablature?
Tablature.
Well, some of them don't even do that.
You know, I as a former professor, and I've said before, I'm very progressive-minded, and I think very humanitarian and humanistic and all this, and quite a forward thinker, maybe an idealist in many ways. But when it comes to certain things, I'm really quite conservative, and one is a rigorous traditional classical music upbringing. On the other hand, as you mentioned the subject, I was thinking about some things. I heard an interesting story actually before you sent me this article, and I only just remembered it now. There's a wonderful article, not an article, a radio show story about Frederica von Stade, the great mezzo-soprano. I did not know that she was American-born, with the name and everything. I have some recordings of hers. A wonderful Midsummer Night's Dream with Mendelssohn, the incidental music and all that, and some other things back in that time, 60s, 70s, probably into the 80s anyway, but continued, I think, into the 90s and so forth. But she talked about she was born. Her father was German, but she was born in New York. Went to school, managed to start singing early enough, and had a good voice, and then got connected with a really good teacher, so that she auditioned for Juilliard or something like that. I don't know what it was, but she got accepted.
Yeah.
She did not know how to read music when she went into school. She'd learned everything by ear, and had been prepared by pianists and so forth and stuff, and had completely learned how to sing by ear. I thought about, getting music degrees where you don't have to read music, and I did think about certain kind of people, for example, my guess is if they had a jazz program, and you were going to get a bachelor's degree in music with a focus in jazz, I know a lot of those people who do not read music.
Yes,
They
exactly.
play by ear and just by working things out.
Yeah.
And then, to some extent, but still you got to read the music. What do they call those? Lead sheets.
Lead sheets.
Right? I could see in that case, again, there was a great guitar professor at Cyprus where I taught, actually, really good.
Yeah.
And he demanded that his kids, of course they read music,
but
they also had to learn to memorize all of the passages with tablature, so that they could do this. And in fact, there was a guy, excellent, I can't think of his name right now, I can see his face and his name, I'm sorry, I don't remember. Ahmed Sersda or something like that, I forget. But he hurt his right hand in his senior recital.
Yeah.
And we knew that he was a fabulous player, really. He eventually came and got a degree in Arizona and places. I mean, really great guitarist. He recited, they'd written it all down, and he recited his entire program to the jury with tablature. All of it. And demonstrated it on the fingerboard of the guitar, but because he couldn't play with his right hand. They passed him, because they also knew who he was. But I thought about that. What about musicologists? Could they experience music simply by listening to it, without needing to write about it necessarily? Can you hear music? Look, my argument would say, if you're going to be an accountant, you got to know how to do math, right?
Yeah.
You got to know how to read numbers and shit like that.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a mathematician, you better know calculus and algebra and stuff like that before you go into the heady stuff, right?
Yeah.
You're straight into Einstein crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're going to be certainly a performing musician, certainly in Western music, you better know how to read.
Yeah.
But is there something to be said for just listening to music authoritatively?
Yeah.
Like, can you develop references sufficient by listening to the same piece by different people sufficiently you really get to truly know the piece?
Yeah.
In a sense, like the old expression, know something by heart, but not necessarily to be able to read it, but you just learn it by playing it and hearing it and so forth. Could you develop a kind of authority through a non-literate understanding of music? You could even hear aspects of structure and form, things like that. You certainly could write about it in, one might say, a non-traditional way in musicology, because musicologists, but especially with all these Germans from the earlier 20th century influencing American universities, musicology has so much to do, and not just the theorists, but the musicologists who are writing in the context of socio-cultural history.
Yeah.
They're still usually dissecting pieces of music and referring to the harmony, the theory, and the various things like that. But it's possible you could write about music in a socio-cultural way that doesn't have to deal with musical analysis, right?
Right.
I can, but for example, you can play by ear.
Sort of.
Yeah, but I mean, you can
Yeah,
make
I
shit
can
up.
sort-
He
yeah.
can sit at the piano. He never looks cracking a book of music for hours.
Yeah,
You're going to play 8 hours on
I
Saturday.
gotta play 8 hours on Saturday.
And you're not going to open one book of music.
I'm not gonna open up a book of music.
Come on, it's up here. Plus, he knows stuff like that.
Yeah,
I can't begin to do that. If you keep putting books of music in front of me, if I had the energy,
yeah.
I could play for 8
For 8
hours.
hours. Oh,
I
yeah,
can read
absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah,
You know, I
absolutely.
can read stuff. I'm
Yeah.
really lucky. I had good teachers,
Yeah.
and actually, good teachers of theory and keyboard harmony, because I could sight read stuff very quickly.
Yeah.
But there again, there's the reading thing.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
it'd be interesting for when you guys finally hear this show.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because I can imagine that causing a lot of. But I immediately, when I write back to you, I said,
Yeah.
"This is such bullshit." You know?
I remember.
Can you imagine some guy? Yeah, tell him what I said.
This is what
I
Mark. I texted this to Mark days ago, and his reply was, "Good topic. Those students are obviously disadvantaged. A strong harmonic reading of a score helps one to see beyond the notation, which is kindergarten in comparison."
Yeah,
Dot, dot, dot.
yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, that's the initial reaction. I mean, it's, but you know what? I can't help it, but I have to cite, I don't know, what was it? 2 or 3, probably 3 or 4 Van Cliburn competitions ago. Yao Cheng Wang from China took gold. He performed I remember him performing the 24 Preludes by Chopin in a round, but he also did the Petrushka in a different round. But he wasn't the only gold medal winner.
Oh.
There was a Japanese pianist who did the Opus 10 Chopin Etudes, but he did some other strange stuff too. He did like the Campanella list, and he also did the Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2, and they still gave him gold medal. What won the judges over was when he made it to the concerto rounds, was that slow movement from Chopin's first concerto. That pretty much sent him, to the gold medal. This guy is blind.
Oh, I never heard of this guy.
Remember this guy?
I saw a video of him one time. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't recall his name. It's Chuji something.
yeah.
I can't recall the rest of the name, but I remember like something like
I saw the video where they.
TSUG.
He was playing a concert, and the whole point was about saying, "Blind pianist cries affected by
Exactly.
playing."
Moved by tears.
Yeah.
Moved to tears. Yeah. And he had to see it, and apparently he had composed this little piece in commemoration of the people who died from some volcano erupting or something.
Or was it the earthquake in Kobe?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
It was either an earthquake or
Yeah.
some volcano. I can't remember. But yeah, he composed it for that commemoration. So
well, what do you guys think?
yeah, I'd be curious.
I think as this finally gets up, we're going to try to figure out this YouTube problem, and I hope by at least the beginning of spring we've got all these shows up. There should be almost a dozen.
Yeah.
Which is going to take some time, and then it's going to take you time to get through them if you really want to. So we may not have this conversation on Facebook until the summer.
Yeah.
By the way, back in
Yeah. No
what you were
kidding.
talking about.
The Accompanist, folks. French film. If you find it on DVD or even VHS, it's a good movie. It was enlightening.
Looks like a good scene from it. Yeah, in the back.
Good.
What was that one called with Jane Seymour?
It was called Matters of the Heart.
Oh yeah.
I'll bring it back. I'll
Okay.
bring it back so you could all see.
Then we'll show you the backside of the
I
box.
will not show you the back side of the box.
Oh.
Will not. Where are we
That
supposed
was
to make this?
back with Jane Seymour. Well, no, this is not for kids. I actually clicked the little box that when I submit stuff to YouTube, because they have special rules and things. Is this made for children, or can children watch this? And you can say no,
Yeah.
because that means so long as I don't know how they do it, but come on, we're not doing anything.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Cracker Jack.
We're going to discuss this later, okay? He wants to show
I'm in trouble.
He's only interested in
I'm in trouble.
the pictures on the back of the box, and there's nothing.
That's not true. That's part of the magic of being a classical musician. Some of those stories that you hear about concert pianists or people like that, I can tell you from experience, there's some truth to it.
Call BS on this one.
Well, we better hang it up because this boy's got to go to work.
Yeah, again.
So, I am Dr. Mark Haig,
I'm Elmer.
and we are PSI, which means
Piano Scene Investigations.
once we get this crap up, and it's not crap, but once we get ourselves up there, subscribe to us, and you'll also find a link to our Facebook page so you can join in on the conversation.
Give us a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Should we tell them about the assignments?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, we'll say the assignments.
We're going to wait until we've gotten to the point where we pretty much tape, upload each week.
Yeah.
And then it'll make a little more sense.
Okay.
But until I figure this problem out, it's going to be a little while before we get them all out. But there's be all kinds of alternate listening and watching pleasure as we move forward into this year, which I think is going to have a calamitous end to it.
A pianist goodbye to all us piano geeks out there.
Practice your skills in our videos. Bye-bye.
Later.